Hi everyone, I'm Yuki from the Kintone Azure Sales team at Cybozu. Thank you for watching this video. We release a new video on Kintone product updates every month to share useful information with you. Today, I'm going to talk about Kintone product update of March with Vincent, the Kintone Business Product Manager of Asia region. Hi Vincent.
Hey Yuki.
How are you? The spring has come.
I'm doing not so bad, and yes, you're right, spring is finally here. And yeah, I'm actually especially looking forward to cherry blossom season here in Japan. What's up with you?
I'm fine, but have pollen allergy and my eyes itch.
I hope you get better real soon.
Thank you. Okay, so here are the features that have been officially released this month, which we'll be explaining in detail. But in addition to these officially released product updates, we also have two new categories of product updates I'd like to introduce to you this time. And as you can see on the slide in green, we will be explaining new features in development, and in blue is a list of features related to update options, which, if you remember from our last month's update video, is a new feature that allows you to enable or disable newly released features or try out upcoming ones. So I'm excited to hear about these two, so let's take a look at each update.
Alright, sounds good.
Okay, so now an error message appears when full-width characters are inputted into the formula. So Vincent, could you tell us the details?
Okay, so depending on your work's language environment, you may be using keyboard input settings other than English. For example, in the case of typing with the keyboard in the Japanese setting, it is possible to input characters with different styles, which visually look the same. So in this case, it's full-width characters or half-width characters. So the problem some multilingual users had before was when using the formula feature in Kintone, they'd accidentally insert full-width characters or symbols, which is actually not compatible with this formula feature. This would ultimately lead to an error after you try to save the formula setting. Does this experience sound a little bit familiar to you, Yuki?
Oh yes. When I use quotation symbols, it's hard to distinguish if it's written in a full-width symbol from half-width symbol with my English keyboard setting, and I run into trouble getting my formula to work.
Yeah, and that's exactly the issue. So now if you make this error, you'll get a warning in real time, which you can see in the image in yellow. And it'll be telling you how to use, or it'll be telling you to use a half-width symbol instead.
Oh, I see. So this makes Kintone a bit more user-friendly and convenient.
Yep, that's right.
Oh, great. Now let's move on to the next. So now you can import new data fields from CSV files when adding records. So Vincent, please explain the details.
So as you know, when you're adding a record in Kintone, there are actually two ways you can do it. Creating one by one within the Kintone app itself, or you can import via CSV when you want to add records in bulk. And we've had the CSV import feature for a while already, but actually 4 important data fields were not included, which were created by, created date time, updated by, and updated date time. So now we've just made it so it's now possible to add records with this additional information.
Oh, I see. So I think this will be useful in cases if we are importing data from another system and want to keep track of who originally created the data and when the person created it, right?
Yeah, and the problem you'd experienced before when you tried to upload data from 2015 into Kintone, for example, is it would display the created date time based on today in 2021.
Oh yes, I've heard of this issue before. So this will be a useful feature for database management, especially when we are migrating data from one place into Kintone.
Yep, you got it.
Okay, so next. So administrators can now download a list of plugins that have been installed on the domain to a CSV file. So Vincent, can you give us the overview on this new feature?
So if you're a Kintone admin, when you go to the Kintone administration page and click on plugins, You'll see something new on the top left in blue, labeled Download Plugins in CSV format. So when you click on it, you'll be able to download a CSV file, which will include the plugin ID, its name, its description, and it'll also show the ID and name of each app that is actually using the plugin.
Okay, so this means that if I'm an administrator on Kintone, I can quickly see the big picture of how the plugins we've adopted are being used in several apps.
Yeah, which would be a good indicator for knowing if there are certain plugins that you're paying for that actually aren't being used so much.
That's true. So if I can see that a plugin is installed for an inactive or old app that is no longer being used, then I can make the decision of whether or not we should continue using the plugin. So I get it now. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so let's move on to the next. So this one is about language support. Now, traditional Chinese can be selected from the language drop-down list in the account profile settings. Now, Vincent, please tell us more about this update.
Yes, so this is actually great news for all our Chinese-speaking users out there who prefer using traditional Chinese. So before, only simplified Chinese could be selected in Kintone account settings, whereas setting the language to traditional Chinese required a bit of a workaround involving setting your browser language settings to traditional Chinese. But now this is much more easily achieved by simply selecting traditional Chinese within the Kintone account settings page itself.
Oh yes, I heard that Kintone is being provided in Taiwan and Hong Kong now, where traditional Chinese is more widely used.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons, but another reason is to also allow for more flexibility where you can separate your browser language settings and your Kintone language settings.
Oh, I see. So for example, if I wanted to use my browser in Japanese but prefer to keep Kintone in English or traditional Chinese for work, then that would be possible, right?
Yep, that's exactly it.
Oh, great. Okay, so let's move on to the next. So the next one is related to API. We added an API to get and update the app actions. And I've noticed many new APIs becoming available in the recent few months, which seem to be helpful for migrating data from the test environment to the production environment. What can we use this one for?
Right, so like you said, we've been consistently adding APIs to automate an application's data migration process from the test environment to the production environment with just one click. Back in January, I explained in detail how this works, but in January, it was specifically for notification settings. Last month was for graph settings, and this time, for this month, it's actually for app actions.
Wow, great! So if I remember correctly then, that means we don't have to set up the action feature manually again each time when officially releasing an app in the production environment.
Yep, and that's going to save you a lot of time and effort.
Okay, and here is one more update related to APIs. And we added API to update the department membership.
Yeah, so actually this API is a bit different from the ones we've introduced before in the sense that it focuses more on the user settings instead of app settings. So in this case, a developer can use this user API to update which department a user belongs to in bulk.
Isn't that also possible via CSV import?
Yeah, you're right, which really just comes down to a matter of preference, really. Some users prefer to use the CSV method, while more tech-savvy users, they prefer to use the API method. So we actually had a lot of requests for this API method this time.
So I guess that means Kintone is not only being more user-friendly, but also more developer-friendly.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Great. So next, we are going to introduce new features that are still in development. And I think this update is one of the highlights for this month. So now, we can move an app from one published space to another. So Vincent, could you tell us more about this?
Yeah, there were actually tons of requests for this new feature, so I'm glad it's finally being worked on. But Basically, the issue we had before was if you created an app in one space, it would be stuck just there with no flexibility to move it to another space later.
Oh, I see. So, for example, if I created an app in my HR space and wanted to move it to my sales team, I'd have to export the app data, duplicate the app in the sales team space, and then import the app data.
Right, right. So it's kind of complicated, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so now if you just go into the app settings and look under the category management, you'll see the label change space where app belongs to. So just click that to open it up. And all you need to do is just type the name of the space you want to move it to, click change, and you're done.
So that makes things a lot easier. Or I can see why it was such a popular request.
Yep.
Okay. And as we explained last month, Update option is a feature that allows administrators to enable or disable newly released features and preview new features that are about to be released or even try out new features in development. Vincent, which features apply to Update option for this month?
Yes, so for March, we have 3 that apply. So number 1 is you can enable or disable the new feature we introduced last month, which was showing record created date and time in the History tab. And this will be possible until May. And second, you can enable or disable one of the new features we just introduced today, actually, which is the additional functionality of including created by, created date time, updated by, and updated date time to the CSV import. And this will be possible until August. And last but not least, you can try out the new feature in development we just mentioned previously, which is moving an app from one public space to another. And this is scheduled to be released in May as of right now. So if you're interested in enabling or disabling any of these features, just visit the update options page via the Kintone administration.
Vincent, thank you for your explanation.
Yes, no problem.
So that's it for this month's update. And to our partners, if you have any question, please feel free to contact us on Kintone. And to our customers, if you get an interest in Kintone, please contact our sales representative or one of our partners in your country. So thank you for watching and see you next month.
See you.
Bye.